Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Decoded. I am Sister D, and today we're going to be talking about the elections. We all know that it's 2023, which means elections are kind of right around the corner. So, I want to get into the spiritual relevance of what elections mean to us as believers, as saints, as children of the Most High Yah. So, if you look at this button here, it says the selection and election of presidents. Now, if we change the wording, it could say the election of the selected or selected presidents. Why do I say that? Why did I change the wording? Well, I personally believe that the presidents are selected for us beforehand, and this democracy is simply an illusion. I think one thing we have to remember is that at the end of the day, we have to do what God will have us do and not get caught up into politics. The question you may be asking is, whom should I vote for? All right, which candidate is the best? Which candidate may align with my biblical beliefs as a saint? Well, the first thing you should do, first thing we have to remember as saints is to seek, consult, and ask the Most High for advice, right? For his not even advice, but his will. What is his will for us as we go into this next presidential election? And maybe his will doesn't really align with some of your ideas or your thoughts and your previously held beliefs, but at the end of the day we must abide by his will, his rules, and what he will have us do. It's very easy to get caught up into the partisan politics and the fighting and the tribalism that exists and continues to persist within this particular nation. But we must remember that above all, we are spirit beings inside of these physical bodies experiencing human life, right? But we must do what is best for us and what pleases the Most High. Let's not get caught up into left side, right side, red or blue, or any of these indicators or these mechanisms of division, right? But let's keep ourselves focused on what the Most High will have us do. One thing that we're going to look at is some scripture, right? If we look into Ephesians chapter 6, verse 12, it says, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." We must remember that in every facet of life, spirit matters. Everything is spiritual, including elections. So let's look at some indicators, a few events that take place every presidential election cycle, right? There are three particular things that I want to highlight that we will see every election cycle, like clockwork. We will see it. The first thing that we have to pay attention to that we see every presidential election or cycle is a major police shooting that is pervasive on mainstream media. Let's look at the year 2012.
Week. His mother spoke exclusively to ABC's Good Morning America. Sabrina Fulton remembering her son and his picture that ignited a movement, the photo of Martin's hoodie becoming a symbol of racial injustice.
We're just devastated. You know, this was a person who was our friend, our colleague, just the opposite of anyone you'd feel you need to defend yourself from. And yesterday we were planning to hold a vigil in the garden, small vigil, and it turned into thousands among thousands of people.
Now mostly absent. Waves of peaceful protest marched on, bigger than ever before.
No more silence.
From Washington's newly named Black Lives Matter Plaza to San Francisco's.
So you just saw 2012, 2016, and 2020. Those are all major police shootings that happened throughout presidential election years. Number two, the spirit of division is amplified, thus causing more polarization within the country, right? Like I mentioned before, we see a dichotomy of left versus right, but let's remember that it's not red versus blue or Trump versus Biden, left versus right, urban versus rural. Any of these different sides, right? This duality, this dichotomy that we continuously are fed throughout mainstream media. We have to remember to stay focused on what God will have us do. All right. We also see that there are more different ways that the country is divided. Let's take a look.
Become even more stark in recent years. I mean, look at this map of the United States. It shows the results of the 2020 presidential election by county. Red represents counties where the majority voted for the Republican candidate, Donald Trump, and blue represents counties where the majority voted for the Democratic candidate, Joe Biden.
Now, that was interesting, right? The third thing is that childlike men or women are the candidates because the United States is under judgment. This is a thing that you will continue to see among the candidates. Let's look at what the Bible says. Isaiah chapter 3 verse 12 says, "As for my people, children are their oppressors and women rule over them. O my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy path." Now, of course, keeping this within context, this was talking about the Israelite people who continue to disobey what the Most High God would have them do. They continue to follow other wicked nations and, commit idolatry. And so as a result, God gave them children as their oppressors and women as their rulers. Women being their rulers was a sign of judgment, and not literal children, but men who were childlike would be their oppressors. And what is worse than having an unqualified, unsatisfactory leader? Well, that's what happened with the Israelites. We can see parallels to this and what we see among the candidates that mainstream media is pushing or continuing to show to this day. Right? If you look, you see on the left we have Donald Trump, and on the right, we have Joe Biden. Now, both of these men have something in common, even though they represent the left or the right or Republican or Democrat. They are both childlike in a certain way, right? Donald Trump, emotionally, at times, he does have the appearance of being kind of immature, right? Not getting his way, fussing, things of that nature. And Joe Biden, because he is a little bit older, and this is questionable, debatable, but cognitively speaking, he is not as advanced in his sharpness as other candidates or other people or other leaders are. So sometimes he may say things, he may gaffe, he may, mumble a little bit. He may make errors that you'll see. And these are all parts of judgment. So let's look at some signs that a nation is under judgment, because I've been saying, just talked about Trump and Biden, how they are signs, but we're going to get a little bit deeper into how we know a nation is under judgment. So let's look at the first thing. We're going to look at three signs. Three signs. The first sign is talked about in Romans chapter 1, verse 24. It says, "Therefore God gave them over in the desires of their hearts to impurity for the dishonoring of their bodies with one another." God, or Yah, gives them over to sin. He gives them over to sexual immorality. When a nation is under judgment, there is rampant immorality happening, whether it be pedophilia, lesbianism, gay, all of the fornication, porn. Do we see these things in this nation?
With hundreds of floats and tens of thousands of people, the Los Angeles Pride Parade.
We didn't even need to see much. You already know about the pride. Number two, how else do we know that a nation is under judgment? Well, God causes a reduction in supplies for daily living. You will see food reduction happening. You will see less and less food available in your supermarkets. You'll see farmers talking about it and explaining how they've been having difficulties. Let's look at what the Bible has to say. Right? Isaiah chapter 3 verse 1 says, "For behold, the Lord of hosts, doth take away from Jerusalem and from Judah the stay and the staff, the whole stay of bread and the whole stay of water." So he will take away those very important, those very vital resources. And that includes food, water, all of these different things. Is that happening in the United States? Let's hear from a farmer.
You talk about shortages, a real possibility next year. How bad could it be?
You look at Ukraine, you look at Russia, you look at what's going on in the Netherlands. I think there's going to be a lot of food shortages next year. Americans go to the grocery store with confidence. they can get the food that they need. And I think we take for granted what farmers and ranchers do around this country. We take for granted the
Yeah.
products that we produce, the wholesome products that we produce here in America. And we need to rely on that. We need to protect our rural communities and look for a future that is stronger in our food security.
So she just talked about food security. Number three, the final sign, or one, there are many other signs than just these three, but these are the three prominent ones, right? Yah gives the nation immature, inexperienced, or female leaders. And this ties into what I was saying before about some of the events that take place every presidential election cycle. Now, the word says in Isaiah chapter 3, verse 4, and I will give children to be their princes, and babes shall rule over them. So, this particular verse is highlighting the childlike aspect of your leader or of the leader that will rule over the nation that is being judged. The Most High did it before, and he will continue to do it as long as that nation is under judgment, as long as the people continue to defy and to be defiant and to disobey and disregard the Most High's rules and his laws, then that nation will continue to be under judgment. And that's what we continue to see in the United States. We continue to have candidates that are unfit in one way or another. And if Biden and Trump are the nominees again, we'll just have even more judgment, even probably worse than before. So we just have to be mindful of these things. Let's look at President Biden.
Indeed.
Now that was a short clip of Biden. I don't know about you, but sometimes when I see him, I kind of feel just sad because I think it's elder abuse at this point. I think he really needs to be retired somewhere. I really believe it's elder abuse. And I feel kind of sorry for him that he's declining that way, but that's what people continue to vote for. And once again, it's a sign of judgment. So, the final thoughts as we conclude this video, this episode, is that as children of the Most High who continue to seek what the Most High will have us do in His perfect will and His word and His way, is that we must pray, right? If you decide to divorce and exclude yourself from this election process, it's completely understandable. I know people who don't participate at all in any presidential election. I know some people who try to vote for the candidate that has the best heart or the best policies. I think at the end of the day, your relationship with the Most High is what matters most. You do what He will have you do, right? I think it doesn't matter who the president is, but because the United States is under judgment, then that particular leader will enact what the Most High will have him enact. So that's pretty much the long and short of that. I will leave you with this verse in James chapter 1 verse 5. But if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of who gives to all generously and without reproach, and it will be given to him. So once again, just as we continue to navigate this thing called life, not even just limited to the presidential election, let us ask, seek, get counsel from the Creator. He is the one that knows what is best for us. He is the one that can direct our steps, can give us guidance that we cannot get from any other vessel. Don't let this partisan politics divide you from your brothers and sisters in the Most High, or your brothers and sisters in Yahusha or Christ. Don't let it happen. Right? Proverbs chapter 4 verse 23 says, above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. If we get too enthralled in what's going on with the bickering and the tribalism and the separation, we will forget to keep our eyes focused on the Creator who governs all, right? Keep your heart close to what God will have you do. Don't let anything distract you from Him, including this presidential election. Stay safe, stay close, and keep that relationship as the most important relationship. Y'all bless.